Flotsam by David Wisner and Mrs. Ruggieri's fifth graders. One day there was a boy who was looking at a crab underneath a magnifying glass. He was watching the brown and white crab very closely. The boy was at his spot on the beach, still looking at the blue and white crab. His mom and dad were also reading a book quietly. They brought a lot of beach supplies to play with at the beach. Then the boy got up and started walking towards the ocean. He brought his bucket and shovel with him. All of a sudden, he spots another crab. This one was red and black with a tan bottom. As the boy goes to touch the crab's claw, the crab gives the boy an "I don't like to be touched" look. All of a sudden, the boy hears a swishing and crashing sound. He thought to himself, "What is that coming?" Crash! The waves swallowed the boy and crab up into the sea. The shovel and bucket fly out from next to the boy. When the boy got washed back onto shore, he noticed something else washed up too. He looks confused and thinks to himself, "Why is there a camera in the ocean? Where could it have come from?" The boy stands up, picks up the camera, and begins to examine it. He notices that it is covered with barnacles and seaweed. "I bet this camera is very old," he thinks to himself. He runs back to his mom and dad to show them the camera. "Where'd you find this camera, bud?" Dad asks. "I found it washed up on the shore," he said. Mom and Dad suggest he takes the camera to show the lifeguard, but he had never seen it before too. The boy decides to sit back down and begins to inspect the camera. He discovers a roll of film inside. The boy quickly ran off the beach into town towards the 1-hour photo shop. He asked the lady, "Can you please print this film?" She acts like she is ignoring him as she is on the phone. He hands over the film and she hands back new film for the camera. The boy heads outside to wait for his picture. He feels so bored as he waits for 1 whole hour. Then the boy ran back to the beach, sat down on his blanket, and began to look at the pictures. He was so confused. He began to think, how are these real? The first picture showed a mechanical fish who blended in with a sea of other red fish. Could it be a wind-up fish? Could it just be a regular toy? The boy continues to look confused while looking at the photos. He goes on to the next one. The second picture shows a family of octopus in chairs and fish sitting on the couch. How did this furniture get into the ocean? I wonder if it came in by a sunken ship. The third picture shows a pufferfish acting as a hot air balloon carrying tiny green fish. How is this pufferfish lifting off into the air? The fourth picture looks like there's tiny little green people living in a shell city on turtles' backs. The shell homes have a pointy top, all different colors and shapes, and some of the shells appear to be bumpy or swirly. The fifth picture shows huge starfish coming out of the ocean. They have tiny jungles on their backs. They dance above the water as small beluga whales swim underneath them. The sixth picture is different than the rest. I wonder why there is a girl holding a picture with other kids holding pictures in it too, the boy thinks to himself. I wonder where she is from. The boy is looking surprised at the pictures. He scratches his head and begins to wonder, what are these? He decides to grab his magnifying glass to examine the photo even closer. He keeps questioning, who are all of these kids? The boy switches from the magnifying glass to the microscope so he can get a closer look. He zooms in and sees a little boy holding a picture of another boy. He zooms in even more and sees another boy holding a different picture of a little girl. The boy zooms in even more and sees a picture of a little girl holding another picture. He zooms in as much as the microscope will let him and sees a little boy holding no picture. He begins to ponder, is this the owner of the camera? The boy is sitting in the sand wrapped in a towel with the camera sitting on a green bucket. His parents come up and say it's time to leave the beach. As they begin to pack up, the boy looks at the camera and gets an idea. He decides to take a picture like all the other kids did with the camera. He put the camera on the bucket and used the shovel to help take the picture. As he is taking the picture, he does not realize that a giant wave is coming. Crash, swish, splash! The camera captured the boy holding a picture which has all the other previous kids in it. The rest of the photos went flying in the wave. Then all the pictures ended up in the ocean. The boy decided to throw the camera into the ocean too. Hopefully another kid will find this camera, he says as he waves goodbye. The camera begins its journey under the moon. It floats on top until it latches onto a squid. All of a sudden, a giant fish comes up to eat it, but it's still holding onto the camera. Next, it begins to float by a whale until tiny seahorses find it and begin to pull it down further towards the ocean floor. The camera makes its way to an ocean village. Here, it sees tiny mermaids and other sea creatures. The street is lit up by lampposts and many beautiful pieces of coral. The camera continues to float by away from the giant city. After it leaves the sea village, the camera begins to make its way back to the top of the ocean, where a pelican picks it up next. The bird eventually drops the camera when it hooks onto a dolphin's fin next. It travels all the way to the Arctic, where it meets penguins. Finally, it floats all the way back to a different beach. Tumbling waves push the camera towards the shore. It ends up with a little girl reaching towards it. I wonder what this is.